Hmm. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those who are attending in online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those who are attending in online. Change any same ena? Same interchange any? దీనికి ఇది దానికి అదే ఉంది. వస్తుంది. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those who are attending in online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Good morning, guys. All right, sir. Now, what we completed there in the last session. So, in the last class, I think so, we started with exception handling. In exception handling also, so number of topics we started, already we completed. If you observe the total concepts of this exception handling, first we understood the introduction part. In that introduction, we started with the differences between error and exception. After that, I gave a definition for exception. After the definition of the exceptions, we started with the types of exceptions. There are predefined exceptions and user-defined exceptions, both we understood. After that, after understanding the predefined exceptions and user-defined exceptions, in a predefined exceptions, we have given the total architecture of the exceptions. The minimal exception classes are given. After that, I given one more point that there are two types of predefined exceptions like checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. The difference we understood. After that, again, two types of checked exceptions, pure checked exceptions and partially checked exceptions that we understood. After that, after completion of this, overview of the predefined exceptions. What exceptions we are going to get frequently in Java applications, that exception related points also we understood. After completion of these predefined exceptions content here, we started with user defined exceptions. Then before that user defined exceptions, we started with the throw keyword. After that throws keyword. After that we started with what? Try catch finally. In a try catch finally, we completed try, catch, and finally their basic awareness we completed. After completion of this try, catch, finally individually, and we have seen some interview questions. What interview questions we have seen? Is it possible to provide try block without catch block? Yes, with the finally block. Is it possible to write try block without finally block? Yes, with what there? Catch block. Is it possible to write try block without catch and finally? No. We have to provide either catch or finally. If you want to provide both, first we have to write what? Catch. After that only we have to write what there? Finally block. They are the points we understood. Then after that we started with another point. Is it possible to provide try catch finally inside the try block, inside the catch block, and inside the finally block? Yes, we can write try catch finally inside the try block, inside the catch block, and finally inside the finally block. Now, they are the points we understood. Before these interview questions, I have given one more interview question. What was that question I have given there already? Difference between final, finalize, and finally. Final, finalize, and what next one? Finally. That answer also be that question also be given there clearly. Final is what there to declare the constant expressions like final variables, final methods, final classes. Final variables not to modify its value. Final methods not to override its body. Final classes not to have any subclass for the class. Next one is a finalize. Finalize is a method in java.lang.object class. It will be used in garbage collection. It can be used to give a final intimation about to destroy an object. There's a final warning about to destroy an object. Next one is after that. Finally is a block. It is able to have a set of instructions which must be executed by JVM irrespective of getting an exception in try block, irrespective of executing catch block. but finally block is giving guarantee for execution. In general, we are going to keep all the cleanup operations in our applications inside the finally block. You may use number of resources in our Java application. All the resources we are going to open before writing. That means just at the starting point of the program. At the end of the program, we have to close them. Closing the resources is mandatory. If you're not closing the resources, if we terminate the application, maybe security problems will come. To avoid these security problems, it is mandatory to close the resources. So out of this try catch finally, which block is providing guarantee for execution, finally block. That's why that closing operations, all the cleanup operations, we are going to keep inside the finally block. That question already we completed. After that, we started with try with catch, try with finally, like these examples. After completion of this, nested try catch finally inside the try block, nested try catch finally inside the catch block, nested try catch finally inside the finally block. Up to that content we completed. Is it clear? Then today we need to see another topic. What is that another topic here? Writing multiple catch blocks for a single try block. So what concepts are remaining still inside this exception handling? This topic, multiple catch blocks for a single try block, that is one thing. And second one is what? After that, custom exceptions, user-defined exceptions. After completion of that user-defined exceptions, exception handling new features in a Java 7 version. In a Java 7 version, 2 features were introduced. The 2 features we are going to understand. After Java 7, no updations are available in exception handling up to Java 20th version. In Java 7 version only, 2 features were introduced in exception handling, especially with the try catch finally. That we are going to understand. By that, we are able to finish the total what there exception handling content. Right. So this is a schedule. Maybe today you'll try to complete at least maximum part here. In the worst case, if anything is remaining, on tomorrow we'll plan for what the remaining part here. But today, max I'll try to complete it. Okay. Right. So now let's move on to the point here. Is it possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block or not? And before that, last one more concern what I'm having there. Yesterday, just I went for some trial. Then day before yesterday, I given some information to you. Then Sunday, I want to use workshop link max, try to attend for the classes. It's okay. I checked it. I thought of it internally. How many members will come for offline class and how many members will come for online class? Unfortunate thing is what? Very less members are attending in offline class. I thought of it remaining. All remaining members will attend in online. After the class, I checked it. How many members are attending in online? The point is, there also be less number of people are attended. So some people are not attending in both. Understand it? Why I'm giving these online classes support? No, at morning 7 o'clock I want to take the class. Maybe for some of it may be difficult because of like what there some kind of health issues are maybe at 7 o'clock. So that people will take the advantage of it if we provide online classes. Moreover, I need to take the classes like that. Why? Because we have to complete the content. We should not neglect these classes from now onwards. And every Sunday, I must take the classes in this way only. Otherwise, our syllabus is not going to be completed. It's mandatory. Why? Because content is more. Core Java is a heavy syllabus. Completing Core Java is a fighting thing for me. Understand it now? So your support is also required. A simple logic. I'm going to take the class at 7 o'clock, no problem. Even at 6 o'clock also, I don't have any problem. Understand it now? But the point is what? If you are unable to attend the classes, if you are not attending the classes, what is the meaning of taking the classes? That is the question. So then still, as per my level base, I'm giving offline classes support. Still some of you are getting problem. That's why I'm giving online classes support. What is the problem with you? Just open that class, open that link in your mobile phone, not to go for even laptop. Of course, you are in bed at the time of 7 o'clock. Okay, fine. You are on bed. Just open mobile phone, open that link. No, there we can watch that class there. Yes, sir. I'm not asking you all of your properties by 7 o'clock morning, right? Right. At least watch the class. Just listen the class. What I'm giving there. That's it. So then this is not good thing. Then if it is a case, no, I'll make it is mandatory. I'll make it is mandatory to attend for the offline classes now. What I'm thinking there, by giving this online classes support and workshop link support, all members are not going to miss out the class. In any way, people are going to attend the classes now. Very good content I covered yesterday. In the regular days, it will be nearly 1 week of time. In the regular days, it will be nearly 1 week of time, nearly 5 days of time, 5 to 6 days of time content I covered on the yesterday. But some of you missed out that class now. At least I'm requesting for you. Exception handling is not like lightweight topic. Exception handling is a very good topic in core Java. At least video support I'm giving to you. Try to watch that video. Try to complete that videos now. Then only we can move forward. Otherwise, you may get, definitely I'm saying to you, in the future you may get problems if you're not understanding exception handling. It will be useful even for advanced Java, even for total Java J2EE technologies. Moreover, I given very good analysis. Internal points I have given more that we have to understand. Okay, can I move forward? Okay, I will check it again on next Sunday. If all of you are not attending in the next Sunday, I will take the decision to stop this online class on Sundays now. Just I'll make it is mandatory for everybody to attend the class on Sundays and offline only. Those who are attending offline. Okay, that's it. I'll wait for it next Sunday. Even here itself, I'm announcing that next Sunday the topic will be multi-threading ending. Multi-threading ending content, Max. Very good analysis I'm going to provide. Ending concepts of the multi-threading. And I'm going to start it. 1 minute. Up to now, the Java is okay, no confusion. But in multi-threading, definitely will get confusion. But I'll make it is simple. I'll simplify the entire content. Easily, I'm going to inject the content. But your attention is required. Your thinking is mandatory along with me. Then only you can understand. Outputs are also we are not going to get in a comfortable manner. You may expect one type of output. You may get other type of output. But that output is also right. There we have to understand why it is right. When it is possible, when we have the concentration on subject, then only it is possible. Don't take it as simple. Multi-threading is the toughest part in entire core Java. Even because of this multi-threading only, because of this multi-threading, that confusion-oriented topic only, some of the Java trainers have stopped their classes in market. Really, I'm telling there, some Java trainers are unable to satisfy the students in multi-threading. Because of that reason, they stopped their classes in multi-threading. They are teaching now UI technologies or Oracle or maybe some other content. In outside, not inside the DurgaSoft. In outside of DurgaSoft, some of my friends already they took core Java classes previously. Because of this multi-threading, because of not satisfying the students in multi-threading, they stopped their core Java classes and they are taking some other lightweight technologies. One faculty, as per my concern, he is taking Python classes previously. In Python also multi-threading is available. That one also is stopped. Right, sir. So your concentration, your attendance is very, very important. Next part of the Java, collections, multi-threading, IOSIMs. Then advanced concepts will start there in core Java itself. Like JVM architecture, regular expressions, generics, no. If your knowledge is, if you are not aware about it, if you're not having concentration on these concepts, you'll not understand them. Put more concentration, what I'm telling you, right? Right, sir. Now let's move to the punch here. Is it possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block? Answer is what there? Yes. If it is no, I may not ask this question. Sure. Answer is yes. Okay. Yes. It is possible to provide more than one catch block, for a single try block. But we must have the following conditions. All of you observe carefully. Yes, it is possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block, but with the following conditions. We must have the following conditions. Getting this point here? There are some conditions. With that conditions only, we are able to provide more than one catch block for a single try block. But what are these conditions now? Condition number 1. All of you observe carefully. I'm going to explain to you. Condition number 1. In the multiple catch blocks, we are able to provide exception classes names. Am I right? In the multiple catch blocks, we are going to provide what their exception classes names. Catch exception name, catch arithmetic exception, catch null pointer exception. Like this we have provided or not? So in the multiple catch blocks, we are able to provide exception classes names. Good. Now here the condition is, if all the exception classes are having inheritance relation, if all the exception classes are having inheritance relation, one is superclass, another one is subclass, like this inheritance relation, then we must provide all the catch blocks. We must provide all the catch blocks as per the exception classes inheritance increasing order. Please read out the statement here. How much you are going to understand, try to understand. I'll give next explanation, next point. No, now understand it. No, first one is what I have given there. In the multiple, see, first one thing is decided here. Is it possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block? Yes, means that more than one catch block we can write. When we write more than one catch block for a single try block, for each and every catch block we have to provide some exception class name or not? Yeah, that point I'm telling there. In the multiple catch blocks, we are able to provide exception classes names. We are able to provide what their exception class names, exception classes names. Okay, where in that exception classes names there is a condition. What is that condition? No, if all the exception classes are having inheritance relation, then we must provide all the catch blocks as per the exception classes inheritance increasing order. First catch block exception is a subclass. Next catch block exception class is a superclass for the previous exception class. Next catch block exception class name is a superclass to the previous exception class. Next catch block will have the exception class, that is a superclass to the previous exception class. That means when we take a separate catch block, that exception class name should be the superclass to what their previous exception class name. Previous catch block provided exception class name. Example I'm able to show now. So all the catch blocks we can provide as per the exception classes inheritance increasing order. Increasing order is what there? Subclass to superclass is nothing but what there? Increasing order. First catch block exception class name is what there? Subclass. Next catch block exception class name is what there? Superclass to the previous one and a subclass to the next one. Next catch block exception class name is what there? Superclass to the previous one and a subclass to the next catch block. In this way only we are able to provide. This is condition number 1. Okay, now here itself I'm telling there, if no inheritance relation exists, if no inheritance relation exists between exception classes, then it is possible to provide all catch blocks in any order. Then it is possible to provide all the catch blocks in any order if no relationship is existed between all the catch block, that means exception classes. Got it or not? What I'm telling you now. If we have inheritance relation between exception classes, all the catch blocks we must provide as per the exceptions and inheritance increasing order. If no inheritance relationship is existed between exception classes in a multiple catch blocks, no, in any order we can provide all the catch blocks. This is point number 1. I will show programmatically, don't worry for it. This is rule number 1. Rule number 2. After completion of this rule number 2, I'll go for what are all the content here now. Got it or not? Before that, one simple example I'm asking to you. Try to understand it. One simple example. Simple example. For example, there is a government office. There is a government office. In that government office, maybe some registrar is available in that government office. You know already registers, right? Registers. They had some, what I'm telling there, some powers, right? A registrar is available in MRO office, simply speaking, or maybe some other in outside, some registrar is available. If a common person, a common man go to that register office, if you ask some clerk there, register is available or not, maybe the clerk may give the information, register is not available at present, for example. But that day is a working day, even he has not applied for leave, he was not on leave, but still if a common man go to that respective register office, no, where the clerk may give the information that register is not available at present, no, he is in outside. But without having any reason, that government officer is in outside. For which person there? A common person. For example, if any higher official of this register visiting that government office, definitely this register presence is mandatory or not? He must be available there or not? Understand the difference first of all? Say for example, unexpectedly PM Narendra Modi visited one register office. Then that register must be attended in that occasion or not? But for the common person, not mandatory. He may or may not attend that occasion. But if it is a PM, mandatory. Am I right or not? Please understand my point clearly. The designation PM is more priority. The designation common man is a less priority. Got my point? No? If PM is attended there, register is mandatory. PM is not attended, common person is attended there, register is optional. Got or not? Keep this point in your mind. Just what we have to give the priority. PM is more priority. Common person is what there? Less priority. Keep this point in our mind. But register attendance is the case if we take no, where it is mandatory, where it is optional. If we think about it, these two comparisons are given. Keep this point in our mind. Now understand the point. In this overall scenario, in the technical, what I am telling there, pure checked exception is a PM. Normal exception is a common man. Understand my point clearly? Now the point is what? If any catch black has the pure checked exception, if any catch block has the pure checked exception, then the respective try block must raise the same pure checked exception. PM Narendra Modi is visiting your register office. Register is mandatory. He must attend in that occasion. So if any catch block has the pure checked exception, then the respective try block must not raise any other. It must raise the same pure checked exception. Forget about that example also. Easily we can understand the point. Okay. If any catch block has the pure checked exception, then the respective try block must raise the same pure checked exception. That's mandatory. If the catch block has a normal exception, then the try block may or may not raise the normal exception. I get my point or not? Or at that point also I want to include. If any catch block has the normal exception in the sense what there, non-pure checked exception. It is not pure checked exception, it is a non-pure checked exception. Then the respective try block may or may not raise the exception. May or may not raise the respective exception. Got it or not? All right. Anyway, in our way we can understand the point here. I will show in programmatic way. By that we are able to get clarity. Now tell me, what is the first point here I said to you know? What is the question here I have given there? Is it possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block or not? Then what is the answer for it? No. Answer is what? Yes. It is possible to provide more than one catch block for a single try block. but we must have the following conditions. What are the conditions? What is the first condition here we have to provide? In the multiple catch blocks, we are able to provide exception classes names. If all the exception classes are having inheritance relation, then we must provide all the catch blocks as per the exception classes inheritance increasing order. If no exception, no inheritance relationship is existed in between exception classes, then we can provide all the catch blocks in any order. No particular order, in any order we can provide all the catch blocks. Leave it. Next one is what? If any catch block has a pure checked exception, then the respective try block must raise the same pure checked exception. If we violate this rule, compiler will raise an error. Right, sir? Observe carefully. If we violate this rule, then the compiler will raise an error. Okay. If any catch block has the normal exception, if it violates this rule, then the compiler will raise an error. If any catch block has the non-pure checked exception, then the respective try block may or may not raise the same respective exception. May or may not raise the same exception. Same exception. It may be, may not be. No problem here. No compilation error in this case. Here also be all catch blocks must be provided as per the exception classes increasing increasing order. If we violate this rule, then the compiler will raise an error. If we violate this rule, then compiler will raise an error. Right. They are the points here. Now let us see that examples related content here. First one, case one here I'm telling to you, try to put more concentration. Simple examples only here I'm providing to you. Try block. Try catch arithmetic exception E. Next one is next to catch block. Null pointer exception E. Next to catch block. Array index out of bounds exception E. Now tell me, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bounds exception, all are having any inheritance relation? Do you have any inheritance relation between all these exception classes? No inheritance relationship is available. So we can write all the catch blocks in any order. We can write all the catch blocks in any order if we are not having inheritance relation between all the exception classes. The same thing here I want to write. This is one example. If the status is what there, no compilation error. Of course, the status is what there, no compilation error. Let's see this point also. No, programmatically, I want to show this. 1 minute. Right, sir. I'll show this later. And I'll show this. One more example here I'm providing to you. Try to understand it. Same thing I copied here, but now I want to change the order. Second one here I want to provide like what there, arithmetic exception. First one I want to provide like what there, array index out of bounds exception. Last one I want to write like what there, arithmetic exception, or maybe null pointer exception. Observe carefully. Here the order and here the order both are different. Am I right or not? Then now the status is what there, is a valid or invalid? No. Yeah, instead of saying this no compilation error, I want to say it is what there, valid. Now it is also like what there, valid or invalid? No, as valid. Next example, put more concentration. Okay, same content here I provided, but observe carefully. Arithmetic exception is a class. Next one is what there, exception is another class. Next one is what there, throwable. Check this now. Arithmetic exception is a subclass to the exception. Exception is a subclass to the throwable. So all the exception classes are provided as per the inheritance increasing order or not? All the exception classes are provided as per the inheritance increasing order or not? Exactly. Now this is what is the status of this one? Status is what there, valid or invalid? No. as valid. That's nice. Now all of you observe carefully. Next one. For example, now this time I'm writing this is an exception. Now this is arithmetic exception. This is throwable, or else maybe I want to write this is like what there, throwable. Now this is like what there, exception. Now here this is like what there, arithmetic exception. Now tell me, arithmetic exception, not throwable, arithmetic exception. Now this is what they now tell me here what we provided here. Here we provided all the exception classes as per the inheritance decreasing order or not. First is sober class, next is subclass, next is subclass. This is in decreasing order of the inheritance or not. That's why this is what they're invalid. This is like what they're invalid. Understand all the examples here what I have given there. First one is what there, multiple catch blocks I have written for a single try block where exceptions are irrelated. They're not having any inheritance relation. Next, another one also in the next example also be multiple catch blocks I have written but exception class are not having inheritance relation. So in any order we can provide them. Third one, a relationship is existed here. Arithmetic exception is a child class to exception. Exception is a child class to throwable. So it is in inheritance order of the inheritance. Inheritance increasing order. So it is valid. But if you observe this one, inheritance decreasing order we provided over the elements. What is that inheritance decreasing order? Throwable, exception, arithmetic exception. Decreasing order here we provided. There it is what there, invalid. There it is what there, invalid. Clear to all of you? All right, this is okay, fine. This is completed. Next one is after completion of all these points here, another content is like what there. Next, please read out this statement again. No, on the basis of this, I completed all the examples. Now read out this point here. On the basis of this, I want to show some one or two examples here. What's the point here I'm giving here? If any catch block has the pure checked exception, then the respective try block must rise the same pure checked exception. If it violates this rule, then the compiler will raise an error. If any catch block has the non-pure checked exception, then the respective try block may or may not raise the same exception. It may raise some other exception, no issues for it. All right, that's the point here I'm telling you. Now observe carefully. Another example. Let me take these points here. For example, class catch arithmetic exception, catch null pointer exception, catch array index out of bounds exception, array index out of bounds exception. These things here we are getting. Now it is what there, valid or invalid? No. Valid or invalid? No. They are not having any inheritance relation. No. So we can say that these are like what there, valid here. It's okay, fine. But my point is what? In this case, our try block may raise any exception. In this case, our try block may raise any exception through new arithmetic exception. What exception the try block has raised here? Arithmetic exception. But we are not having any problem. Sir, we provided null pointer exception in one catch block, but the try block is not raised in null pointer exception. Do you get any compilation error? No. Another catch block has provided array index out of bounds exception, but our try block is not raised array index out of bounds exception. Okay, no issues. It may or may not raise the exception. Get my point or not? So here only we are getting what there, arithmetic exception here we are getting, but remaining catch blocks are having some other exception classes now. But if it is a case now, our try block may or may not raise the exact exception what we specified along with the catch block. No issues. Now we are not getting any compilation error. Now it is like what they're valid. Not only this, another example I'm telling to you, observe carefully. Another example I'm telling to you. Now in place of this arithmetic exception, here we have to provide like what there, null point exception. Will you get any compilation error? No compilation error. Why? Because it's like what there, null pointer exception we raised here. Null pointer exception is available. It's okay. No problem. Not mandatory to raise the same exception what we specified along with our catch block in the normal cases. But I'm going to give one more example. Try to understand it. In this example, for example, along with the one catch block, along with another catch block, my fourth catch block I'm providing there, IO exception here I provided. What is this exception here? No, IO exception. IO exception is what? IO exception is what? Pure checked exception. It's a pure checked exception. Then what is the condition here? If IO exception is a pure checked exception, if it is provided along with any catch block, then the respective try block must rise the same pure checked exception. Must rise the same pure checked exception. Then if it is a case, but here in the try block, what exception it has raised here? Arithmetic exception it was raised. Am I right or not? It has provided what there? Arithmetic exception. But what exception is available along with catch block? No, IO exception. But once it is provided IO exception, respective try block must rise the same IO exception. Otherwise, we are able to get what there? Compilation error. Now, this is like what I'm telling to you, invalid. This is like what I'm telling to you, invalid case now. Yes, sir, got it or not? What case here we are providing there? Invalid case here we are getting. Now, okay, leave this one. Next example, I'm telling to you, observe carefully. Next example. Right, sir. Now, inside this example, throw new in place of this arithmetic exception. I'm going to provide what there? IO exception. Now tell me, one catch block has the IO exception. Automatically, it is a pure checked exception. Automatically, the respective try block must rise what there? Same IO exception. Now tell me, what is the status of this one? Is it valid or invalid? No. Valid or invalid? No. Definitely it is what there? Valid here. This is what case here? Valid case only. Right. This is the point here we have to understand. So now one catch block is provided what there? IO exception. When IO exception is available in any catch block, no, it is a pure checked exception. Respective try block must rise what there? The same pure checked exception. So rules and regulations are given, related points also are given there. But for our clarity purpose, I'm going to copy and paste this one in our editor. That means Eclipse IDE. If you are getting any error, it's okay, we can understand it. No error, point is clear now. Right now, let me copy this one. Just only we have to check error or no error. First one. In the case of this first one here, what we are able to get here, let me remove this total content. Have you got any compilation error? No compilation error. So it is valid or invalid? No. Valid. Leave this one. No compilation error, valid. Next one is system. That next one is like what there? Same content here, but I'm trying to provide in another way. Now see this one. Any compilation error? No compilation error. So what is the status I've given there? Valid status now. Next one is, now this one here I'm going to provide another one. Now let me check this. Maybe if you have any spelling mistakes, it's okay, error will come. Otherwise, the concepts wise, it's very clear. Now tell me, are you getting any compilation error here? No compilation error. Now it is what there? Valid. Status is what there? Valid status only. Next one is after that. This is another one. Now definitely now we have to get what there? Compilation error. Am I right or not? Now check this one. Invalid case. Why it is invalid case? No. All the exception classes names we provided in what there? Decreasing order. Catch blocks I provided as per the exception classes inheritance decreasing order. But as per the rule, it must be in what there? Increasing order. Now let me copy this. Now here I want to provide this. Now we are getting an error or not? See this here, red color lines here we are getting there what there? Error here. Right, unreachable catch block for arithmetic exception. It's already handled by the catch block of exception. That means for this particular one, already exception can handle arithmetic exception also. Already throwable can handle even exception also. But these two are like what there? Unreachable catch blocks. These two are what there? Unreachable catch blocks. that compiler can identify it. That's why compiler has given this error here. No, leave it. The status is what there, invalid. Next one is what there. After this one, we have not specified any pure checked exception, but multiple exceptions are specified, but we have not specified any pure checked exception. There we can write like what there, normal content. Now observe carefully whether we are able to get error or not, that we have to identify. Now tell me here what we are getting there. I think so. Array index. 1 minute. Index out of bounds exception. Spelling mistake. Now tell me what is the status of it. Are you getting any compilation error? No compilation error here. No. Now see this one here also be. Now here also be no compilation error here we are getting, right? Right. Valid case here we provided. Next one is what is the status of this? No valid or invalid here? All right, it should be valid here. Now let me check it. Again the same problem, right? All right, no compilation error here also. Now this one. Next one is IO exception here we provided. IO exception here we provided, but here we are raising what there, arithmetic exception. So because of that reason here we are going to get what there, some error message here we are able to get. See this one, I think so. This is okay, fine. But here we are getting an exception. What is the error here we are getting there? No. All right. First of all, import IO exception. Okay, that I import it. But still we are getting an error here. Remove catch clause. Replace catch with the throws or something else. No. Unreachable catch block for IO exception. This exception is never thrown from the try statement body. What is the meaning of it? No. Here we specified IO exception, but this is not thrown by the respective try block. So what is the condition here? If we provide any pure checked exception, the respective try block must rise the same pure checked exception or not. Yes, that's the condition. That's why here we are getting compilation error. Leave this one. Now for this, then what next one here? Invalid, we are getting the case. Next case here I am providing to you. Now try to understand it. In the next case, of course, now this is a problem here. Okay, this is normal typing mistake. But now tell me, have you got any compilation error? No, this time the try block raised what there, IO exception. But now in the catch block also we specified what there, IO exception. Now here we are not getting any exception clearly. That means we are not getting any error. Now it is satisfied. Now this content is what there, satisfied. Now try to understand it clearly. Right, so now this is overall information about like what there, multiple catch blocks, what we are having with the conditions here. What exactly the multiple catch blocks here we are having there with the conditions, then all of them here we provided. Finally, how we are able to write multiple catch blocks for a single try block, that topic here we understood. Yes sir, what topic here we understood there? How to prepare multiple catch blocks for a single try block. That content is completed clearly. Leave this one. After this, right, so then how do we identify exceptions, a pure checked exception or not? That's why I asked to you yesterday, you must attend the classes. Right, sir. Then example, at least one example here I provided to you. What was that example here I said to you? Exception class hierarchy was provided or not? The day before yesterday I given that information to you. Now, in this, after completion of this one, all right, observe carefully. Difference between checked and unchecked exception, pure checked and partially checked exception. At least one question where IO exception is an example here I given there. At least that example, whatever the content I given there, from that we can identify. Moreover, max cases throughout this Java, file related exceptions are nothing but what they are, pure checked exceptions. IO related exceptions are what they are, pure checked exception. That is a blunder. Blunderly we have to remember that point here. Straightforward we have to remember that point here. Apart from that, we are not having any separate measurement. But in this example, IO exception I have used especially. How we identified that? No, because of this architecture, because of this interview question. Not only that, I think so in the diagram also I given, I marked it clearly which exceptions are pure checked exceptions and which exceptions are partially checked exceptions. I was marked there, right? I have marked it. At least by that we are able to understand it clearly. Right, leave it anyway. This part is okay. Next one is after this, the next topic is like what there, user defined exceptions. User defined exceptions. user defined exceptions. What is that user defined exception now? In general, what is the meaning of user defined exception? These exceptions are defined by the developers as per the application requirements. These exceptions are defined by the developers as per their application requirements. Some exceptions are predefined exceptions which are defined by the Java programming language and provided along with the Java software. But these exceptions are defined by the developers as per their application requirements. This is called as what their user defined exception. Observe carefully. But how we are going to define these user defined exceptions in our Java applications? How it is possible to define user defined exceptions in Java applications? In Java applications, if you want to implement in Java applications, if you want to provide in Java applications, if you want to provide user defined exceptions, we have to use the following steps. What are the various steps here we have to use there? In Java applications, if we want to provide user defined exceptions, we have to use the following steps. What steps here we have to use there? Step number 1. All of listen carefully. Step number 1. Prepare user defined exception class. Prepare user defined exception class. Point number 1. Point number 2. After preparing user defined exception class, raise user defined exception and handle the user defined exception. Raise the user defined exception and handle the user defined exception. Both here we can provide. Right, sir. Raise the user defined exception and handle the user defined exceptions. Only these two steps here we have to follow. Clear? All of you are getting clarity now? Right, sir. What is the first one? Can now tell me? Prepare user defined exception class. Second one is what there? Raise the user defined exception and handle the user defined exception. Clear? Come for this point here. First of all, we need to understand, prepare the user defined exception class. Prepare the user defined exception class. Prepare the user defined exception class. How we are going to prepare this user defined exception class now? I'm asking one question to you, try to answer for it. Arithmetic exception is an exception class. Arithmetic exception is what there? An exception class. How can we say that arithmetic exception is an exception class? No. How can we say that arithmetic exception is an exception class? No. Here we have seen the word exception in the class name. That's why it is an exception class. Am I right? In the exception class name, exception word is available. That's why this class is what there? An exception. Am I right or not? No, this is wrong statement. This is wrong. Not because of the word exception. Not because of the word exception. Please remember this. It's because of what? That arithmetic exception class has the exception behaviors. That arithmetic exception class has what behaviors? No, exception behaviors. How it has the exception behaviors? No. How it has the exception behaviors? No. How it has the exception behaviors? No. All right. Now the point I'm asking to you, observe carefully. This arithmetic exception is a class which extends over their exception class. If you observe the diagram, previously I've given exception classes. If you observe the diagram with the exception classes, what diagram here we are getting there? First object. Next one is what the throwable. Throwable has two subclasses. One is what their exception. All exception classes are having a super class, that is what their exception. So all subclasses of this exception are having exception behavior. All subclasses of exception has what their subclass behavior. That means exception behavior is available. Yes, sir. All of you get me point or not? So the reason why arithmetic exception is an exception class. If you think about it, it is a subclass to the exception class. That's why exception behaviors are coming to what there arithmetic exception. That's why this arithmetic exception is what there is an exception class. No. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? That is a point here we have to understand. Fine. I think one more question people are asking to me, then I'm giving information to you. Can we have multiple pure checked exceptions in a catch block? If so, what we should give in a try? First of all, answer my question now. Is it possible to get more than one exception at a time? Okay, first of all, tell me, in a try block, how many exceptions you are able to get at a time? Tell me, only one exception or more than one exception in a try block? Only one exception. What is the condition I provided there? If more than, see, if you have any pure checked exception in single catch block now, respect to try block must rise how many exceptions now? The same pure checked exception. Think a minute about it. If you provide more than one pure checked exception along with a single catch block, as per the condition, more than one exception must rise from the single try block or not? But in a try block, how many exceptions we are able to get? Only one exception. So what is the conclusion there? Is it possible to have more than one pure checked exception in a single catch block? That means in multiple catch blocks, no? Is it possible to have more than one pure checked exception? Is it possible to have more than one pure checked exceptions to multiple catch blocks? No. No, for a single try block, it is not possible. You know, that's a simple case. That's the minimum thinking, sir. Minimum point. The point is what? What's the rule I said to you? If any single catch block is providing pure checked exception, the respective try block must rise the same pure checked exception. It's a condition. Then immediately what you are thinking there? If I provide more than one pure checked exception in a single try block in multiple catch blocks, no, automatically what is the condition? The try block must rise the same more than one pure checked exception or not? But in general, try block is able to raise how many exceptions? No, only one exception. There automatically some error problem will come or not? That's why it is not possible. Okay, leave it. People are asking the questions only. They're not giving response now. Whether they're understanding or not, no response. Yeah, from my statement only, you are saying that understood, no? Okay, fine. All right, sir. Let's move on to the point here. Where we are now, the point is what? I want to say one class is an exception class, then when it is possible. Understood my question? I want to say arithmetic exception is an exception class, then when it is possible. How arithmetic exception is an exception class? How arithmetic exception is an exception class? That's the question. Answer is what there is not because of the word exception in the arithmetic exception class, is because of extending from what? Exception class. In Java, every exception class must be a child class to exception class. Then only that class is what there? An exception class. Clear to all of you? No response. Fine. Let's move on to the point. Next one. Prepare user defined exception class. How we are going to prepare it now? Point number one. Declare an user defined class. Next one is what there? Extend exception. That means java.lang dot exception class to the user defined class. Extend java.lang dot exception class to the user defined class. Okay. Next, observe carefully. Define a string parameterized constructor. Define a string parameterized constructor in the user defined exception class, where the parameter string, where the string parameter represents user defined exception description, where the string parameter is representing user defined exception description. Understand it, what I'm telling you now? Right, sir. This is one point. I think you may not understand immediately the next point, no, but I'll try to give more clarity, try to put more concentration. No. In the string parameterized constructor, access superclass, that means exception class only. Superclass string parameterized constructor, access the string parameterized constructor by using super keyword and by passing the exception description as a parameter. Please try to understand once again. In the string parameterized constructor, access superclass string parameterized constructor by using super statement and by passing exception description as a parameter. Only the other steps here we have to do. Okay, fine. Now, first of all, now observe carefully. I want to give that example code. Try to understand this example code now. Right, sir. Now, I think so. Today, I want to continue this core Java class next 10 to 15 minutes of time also to give more clarity. But try to understand the punch. Your attention is very, very important. Don't deviate, especially this punch. Somewhat new point I'm going to discuss with you. Then put more concentration. Now tell me, first of all, what is the step now? Step number 1, declare an user defined class. For example, public class insufficient funds exception. User defined class. I declared public class insufficient funds exception. This I want to say my exception class. If you want to make it as an exception class, is this word exception is sufficient? Is this word exception is sufficient? No. Then what we have to do if you want to make it as an exception class? Come on, extends. What next one again? No, exception. Extends what there? Exception. Nice. This is completed. Insert this. What next one here? Extend java.lang.exception class to the user defined class. Okay. What next one here? Please read this statement now. Define a string parameterized constructor in the user defined exception class. String parameterized constructor here I have to define public insufficient funds exception of what is the parameter I need to define inside the constructor string parameter. Then what next one here where the string parameter represents user defined exception description. Now here I'm telling there description, that's it. Description in the sense like what there user defined exception description that we can identify clearly. Exception description. Okay, exception description, that's okay, fine. Or else maybe exception description. Clear. Now tell me, define a string parameterized constructor in the user defined exception class where the string parameter represents user defined exception description. Okay, fine, up to that. Next one is what? Now tell me, in the string parameterized constructor access superclass string parameterized constructor by using super keyword by passing that exception description as parameter. Now observe carefully, simply what I am telling there, super of their exception description. That's it. I think you understood this statement clearly. You understood this statement also clearly, but you are not understanding this. First two lines, nothing is available, right? Very simple. This was is very simple. This one is also very simple, but only the problem is where here. Why we are using super of exception description? Okay, right. I'll ask few questions to you. Now try to answer for these few questions. All of you know. Everybody, put more concentration. Inside the catch block, we are going to display the exception messages. Am I right or not? In catch block, we are going to display what their exception details. In how many ways we are able to display the exception details now? Overall, in how many ways we are able to display the exception details? No, in 3 ways we are able to display the exception details. What are the 3 ways of displaying exception details? Now tell me. First one is what? By using print stack trace method. Second one by using system.out println of e in the sense exception difference. Next one is what there, by using system.out println of e dot get message method. In these 3 ways we are able to display exception details. Tell me what print stack trace method is able to display the exception details. It is able to display name of the exception, description of the exception, location of the exception. What is system.out println of e method? E will display the exception details. No, name of the exception and description of the exception. What get message method is able to provide the exception? Only description of the exception. In all 3 details, in all 3 cases, one is common. What is that common? No, exception description is common. Yes sir, got it or not? Okay, fine. You are in my track. Try to follow the same tempo. Don't deviate. In all 3 cases, exception description here we have to display. Clear. Now tell me, which exception here we are preparing? Is it a predefined or user defined? User defined. If it is a predefined exception, no, exception description is also be predefined or not? Come on, exception description is also be predefined or not? Already defined by Java or not? But this exception is what? User defined. If it is user defined exception, then that exception description must also be user defined. If it is user defined exception, now description must be defined by the developer or not? So developer must take the responsibility of providing user defined description or not? Okay, fine. Now we are ready to prepare our user defined exception description. I can define user defined exception description. Funds are not sufficient in our account. I can define it. But after defining that exception description, I have to provide this user defined exception description to the print stack trace method, to the toString method, to the get message method internally or not. Defining message is nothing but string variable. String message is equal to that means no sufficient funds in our account. Like this I can define just as a matter of taking string variable. But I need to display this exception description through the print stack trace method, through the get message method, through the toString method. Am I right or not? So we have to define user defined exception description, and we have to provide that user defined exception description to these 3 methods or not? How we are going to provide this exception description to these 3 methods first? Before going to provide these exception description to these 3 methods, first understand where these 3 methods are defined, where these 3 methods are available. If you think about it, these 3 methods are available in the superclass what? Exception. These 3 methods are defined in which class? No, exception. So if you want to provide your own user defined exception description to the print stack trace method, toString method, get message method, then first we have to pass that user defined exception description. First we have to pass that user defined exception description to the exception class. If we provide this information to the exception class, in the exception class, print stack trace method will use the same user defined exception description. ToString method will use the same user defined exception description. Get message method will use the same user defined exception description. When it is a case, no, when we provide that user defined exception description to the exception class, super class. Why? Because these 3 methods are defined in which class? No, exception class only. So because of that reason, I am trying to provide my user defined exception description to the exception class by using what keyword? No, super keyword. The super of is able to refer superclass constructor. Super of is able to execute what there? Superclass constructor. To that superclass constructor we are passing what there? Exception description. That exception description will be provided to the superclass or not? In that superclass, when we provide exception description, that would be used by print stack trace method, that would be used by toString method, that would be used by get message method. In our program, inside the catch block, when we call print stack trace method, it has to display my own exception description. When we call sys.out@println of a, it has to display my one exception details. If we call get message method, it has to display my one exception class. Tell me, all of you are getting clarity on this point? Yes, finished. My point is completed. In a simple words, I'm telling to you, what is the requirement of using super of exception description to pass user defined exception description to the super class in order to provide that message to the print stack trace method, toString method, get message method, in order to get the same exception details when we call these methods inside the catch block. Inside the catch block, when we access these methods, I want to display my own exception data, not predefined exception data. So I need to pass this exception details to the super class. That means to these methods. To provide these exception description to three methods now, I need to pass the data to the super class constructor. For that purpose only, I'm using what there super of exception description. So still you're not understanding. I know that. Just 1 minute. Let me take water now. I'll explain more. You also take water if you require. Huh? So that's why this is Java. But you should not leave it in easily, right? And then you have to take it. You have to take that point. Nothing is there. Just 70% of the members' situation is what there. In their mind, they are understanding. They thought, okay, I understood. In the next minute, if they are recollecting, no, not understanding. That state you are having now at present. Dilemma state. At one side understanding, at other side not understanding. That is the situation now. Okay, definitely. I know how to inject this point to you. Now I'm going to put more concentration. All of you put more concentration here for the next point. Listen, all of you ready now? I'll give another approach of explaining the same point. All of you ready for it now? No response, guys. Okay, now? Can I go for it? Right. Listen. So this is final time explanation for everybody. Put more concentration. Now tell me, I required only one point. What is the point here I required here? What is the requirement of the super of exception description? That is a question. Just buttify one statement. What is the statement I am telling to you? Remember this statement. To provide user defined exception description to the super class in order to make available that exception description to the print stack trace method, toString method, get message method. For what purpose? No, if I call these methods in my catch block, I need to get the same user defined exception description. To get the same user defined exception description, when I call these methods inside the catch block, first I have to provide them to these three methods. To provide this message to these three methods, first I have to send the data to the super class. To provide the data to the super class constructor only, I'm using what there super of exception description. That's a simple explanation, nothing is there, but I'll give more clarity. Try to understand it now. Right, sir. First of all, let me write a predefined exception class. Predefined exception class I want to write. Required information only, not the complete exception class. My required details here I am providing. Public class exception. This is predefined exception class name only. Of course, extends what there throwable. Extends what there throwable. Clear? Now inside this, what I am telling to you, observe carefully. Inside this string exception description variable is available is equal to empty. Clear? Now public exception of string exception description. Now inside this dot exception description is equal to exception description semicolon. Clear up to now? Now this class is what? Exception. Is it a predefined class or user defined class? Predefined class or user defined class? predefined class. I'm not talking about my own class. I'm talking about predefined class, internal concept only I'm talking now. Right? Put more concentration. After this, after completion of this, observe carefully. Public void print stack trace method. It will display system.out.println of course, what it is able to display, no exception name. Exception name it will display. Colon. Description of the exception it is able to display. That's why I'm writing directly exception description. Of course, location is also displayed. Okay, otherwise now here I'm telling you exception name colon plus exception description colon plus location. I'm not defining the two variables now, but my concentration is on what there exception description. It's okay. This is like what method? Print stack trace method, where it is using system.out.println and it is displaying the data. Next one, public string toString method. Public string toString method. Return exception name colon plus exception description semicolon. Next one is public string get message method. It will return exception description semicolon. Is it clear? Like this, so many methods are available, but some of the methods only I have written. These methods are sufficient for me. All of you are getting clarity on this now? Up to this predefined library, predefined exception class here I'm discussing now. All right, public class exception extends to throwable. Exception description is available in the constructor. Through this parameter, we are getting exception description. Print stack trace method, exception name colon, exception description colon, location, toString method, exception name colon, exception description, get message method, return exception description. It's okay, fine. This is like what I'm telling there, predefined exception class. Okay, leave it. Now I want to write my own exception class now. Public class my exception I'm writing. Not insufficient funds exception, it's a different one. Later I will use it. My exception I've written. Extends what? Come on, extends what? Exception. Extends what? Exception. Now tell me, when this my exception is extending from exception, automatically all these behaviors are available to this my exception class or not? Okay, now here, what I have to do there inside this no public my exception of string exception description that we provided. Inside this, what next one here no super of exception description that I'm providing. Okay, right, this is also be completed. Up to that, no problem here now. Now in my main class, main method, or maybe some other class, I want to raise an exception. I want to create an exception. I want to raise an exception. Got it or not? But how I'm going to do this? Understand it? Some other class here. Okay, my class, for example, I'm taking no. Inside this my class, what I'm going to do there? Try catch. Inside this catch, I'm going to write what there? My exception E. Now inside this, I have written like what there? E dot print stack trace method. Print stack trace method here I provided. Okay. Right, sir. Then what next one here I'm getting no? After this, now see this one. Inside the try block, as per my requirement, I'm going to raise this exception. To raise the exception, what keyword we have to use there? Throw. Inside this throw, what is my exception? I'm actually new. Throw new. My exception. Inside this my exception, my description here we have to provide or not? My exception description. I specified this. This is what there? My exception description. This is user defined exception description. Got my point or not? Okay, like this here we provided. Now I'm going to discuss with you the flow of execution. Observe carefully. Now here, as per the requirement, now what I'm going to do there, e.print_stack trace method, system.out.println of e, then after that, system.out.println of e.getMessage method. All three things here I provided. Now here this is like what the Cessna dotted println of e dot to string method will be append. Clear? Now I'm going to show the flow of execution to you. Try to understand it all of you now. First of all, program execution will start from which place now? Tell me. Main method. This is under main class and main method. Understand it now. All right. When a flow of execution is coming to this particular intersection, what is this intersection, sir? Now tell me. What is this intersection? Now tell me. Rising an exception or not? That means to rise an exception, first exception object must be created or not? Come on, what object must be created? Exception object must be created. While creating this exception object, we are calling my exception class constructor or not? So from this directly flow of execution will come to which part here? To this particular location that flow is coming or not? From this particular line the flow will come to this location or not? Automatically this exception message will come to like what there to this variable or not? What is that exception message now? Tell me. Come on, that exception message is what there? My exception description. That is coming to this one or not? Now from here, the same description we provided to super of this exception description or not? Super of exception description or not? That means my exception description is coming to the this parameter the super or not? Now super of exception description in the sense from this super in the sense what there? Super class string parameters or constructor. What is the super class for this class? Except my exception then it must access. Now here only we have to understand the point here. Super in the sense it must access what there in exception class string parameters or constructor. In exception class string parameter constructor will be executed. Am I right or not? Now in exception class what parameter here we provided here? My exception description that must come to the parameter of this constructor or not? My exception description is coming to the parameter of the exception class or not? Okay, now it is available. Now here what we are doing there? Now the same message is passed to like what the class level variable. What is that one? My exception description here we provided. That means we pass it to what there? This dot exception description. This dot exception description says my exception description is available. So now here for this exception description, what value is available here? My exception description is available or not? Clear? Can I move forward? Okay, finally, whenever we are rising, when we are rising an exception, first we are creating exception object. When we create exception object, user defined exception description will come to the user defined exception class constructor. From this exception class constructor through the super keyword, we are passing that exception description to the predefined exception class constructor. Inside this predefined exception class constructor, my exception description is provided to the class level variable, that is what their exception description. Is that clear? Now, okay, object is created. Because of throw keyword, exception will be raised. When exception is raised, then what happened there? Flow of execution is coming to what? From this particular point, automatically flow of execution will come to the catch block or not? Now inside the catch block, now tell me what method here we called here? E dot print stack trace method. E dot print stack. E is what there? My exception. JVM will search for print stack trace method inside the my exception class. Do you have any print stack trace method inside the my exception class? Not available. So JVM will search for print stack trace method in the super class or not? What is the super class? No. What is the super class? No. Exception class. Inside the exception class, print stack trace method is available or not? Yes, available. So this print stack trace method is like what there? This print stack trace method. Exception class print stack trace method will be executed. Now inside this, what it is displaying there? Now tell me exception name, my exception colon exception description or not? What is that exception description there? Now tell me my exception description location. No, some location here we are able to get. So finally, which output here we are able to get? No, my exception colon. What is the output here we are getting there? My exception colon exception description is what there? My exception description, my exception description. After this my exception description colon tested dot java colon 10. Okay, This is print stack trace method. Oh, okay, fine. Next one is what I provided, sir. Now tell me after completion of this. Here we provided like what there system.out.println of e. System.out.println of e dot print stack, sorry, e dot toString method will be executed. First of all, JVM will search for u dot toString method in the super class. What is the super class? Can know my exception. That means normal class, my exception. E reference variable, my exception. Inside this my exception, do you have any super class for it? Do you have any toString method? No toString method. JVM will search for toString method in the super class or not? What is the super class? No exception. In the exception class, toString method is available or not? Yes, it is available. That means the flow of execution like what there, this one to this one. That means system.out.println to this particular one internally. It will be executed. By executing this, what it is returning now? Tell me. Exception name. What is that exception name? Now tell me. Come on. Exception name is what there? My exception. My exception. That is the name of the exception. Colon. Exception description. What is that exception description now? What is that exception description here we are getting there? My exception description. That message here we are getting. Okay, completed. Next one is what? Next one here. System.out.println of e.getMessage method. E.getMessage. First JVM will search for e.getMessage in where? In my exception class. It is not available. Then JVM will search for it in which class? No, exception class. As for that, flow of execution will come to what there? Super class exception. Super class getMessage method. In the super class getMessage method is available or not? Yes, in the super class getMessage method is available. Now this will be executed from this particular method. What it is returning? No, exception description. So exception description is like what there? Only my exception description here we are able to get. My exception description. That's it. Now this is a total story of like what their internal content. Now again I'm asking this question to you, try to answer for it. What is the requirement of using this super statement inside the user defined exception class constructor? There only we are not understanding previously. Now I think you are comfortable now. Now tell me answer for it. What is the purpose of using the super class exception description? That super class, that means super keyword. For what purpose you are using that? Simple point is what there? To pass user defined exception description to the super class, that is exception class, in order to make available user defined exception description to the print stack trace method, toString method, getMessage method. Why we are passing our own description to these three methods? No. Why? Because in the catch block we are going to call only these methods to display our exception details now. So because of that reason, first we have to pass this message to what there? These three methods now. To pass this message to these three methods now, first we have to send the data to what there? Exception class constructor. That's why we are using super of exception description. Is that clear or not? Even James Gosing also unable to explain like this now. But still people are not understanding. Now tell me, if you're not understanding, I have one more approach. What is that final approach now? Admission cancel. No other approach now, right? So this is the max information here we have to understand clearly. So finally here, audio on 1 minute. If audio is not audible, then how you understood, sir? Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen now. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, fine. So don't worry. Now just I want to give this total points here. Now inside this, the total diagrammatic representation here are given. Try to utilize this diagrammatic representation for our better understanding purpose. Here we can utilize this. Okay, fine. So next one is what? After this, after completion of this, after preparing this user defined exception class, what next one here? No, the second point here, what we have to do there? Raise user defined exception and handle user defined exception. That we have to understand. The next point is what there? Raise user defined exception and handle user defined exception. Okay. So can I discuss this part and tomorrow? That's it. Tomorrow we will finish it max. Tomorrow max we are going to complete the total exception handling content there. Day after tomorrow onwards multi-threading. Okay. Right, sir. Thank you. Then take few minutes break and come back. I'll start advanced Java.